Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Films and Stuff podcast. I'm Ethan, joined, as always, by most valuable Pete. Hey, Pete. How are you doing today?
I am great. How are you?
Ooh, I am great as well. And I think we can say that is attributable to the fact that we both saw the next cinematic installment of the John Wick universe, the film with a lot of punctuation and a super long title that let's shorthand it and just call it John Wick Ballerina.
Yeah, I'm going even shorter. I'm just calling it Ballerina. I refuse to call it From the World of John Wick, Ballerina.
I thought it was even longer than that. Anyway, titles aside, I think we were both excited to see this film. We both saw it in the cinema. I had very, very loud volume. You had a curved screen
Yeah, that's right.
experience. So without further ado, let's go in and let's talk about one, how excited we are about this film in advance, and did it or did it not meet our expectations?
Okay, so let me start off. I would say from the first John Wick movie, since then, I have maintained that of all the franchises that have come out, I would say that in terms of originality and in terms of universe building, no franchise has done it better. I really think that the franchise that they've built here and the world building that they've built here is second to none. I love the idea of this second sub-world that exists underneath the current world with the Continental Hotel
Yeah.
and right, like the rules of the Continental, the
Yeah.
gold coins. I think that's fabulous.
Yeah.
I think the movies have all done an incredible job of showing like super neo-noir cyberpunk themes in terms of the colors and visualizations.
Yeah.
The Continental of New York versus the Continental of Prague versus the
Yeah.
Continental of Kyoto versus all of the different Continental hotels and all
Stunning.
the different like gun stores and tailors and all of
Yeah.
that. I don't think that there's been another franchise that has built out the world better than this franchise has.
I think, Pete, that's why you're MVP, because that's a very, very astute statement that I think is often glossed over in terms of why the John Wick films have been so popular. And you're right. The mysticism, these, underworld rules, and you said it really well. The visuals for like that hotel in Prague were so on point for a John Wick film. And the gun store, I guess that was also in Prague, right? As well, where she wanted to go hunting and met the dude. Absolutely, that's a very, very good observation. So I agree with you.
In that regard, I'm very keen. I think that this
Yeah.
was fantastic. In the second regard, was I super excited for this movie? I was on the fence. Look, I like Ana de Armas, but I saw the first spin-off, The Continental, the TV series. I thought that was very meh at best.
Oh,
I thought this was not bad for a franchise spin-off, and they certainly set it up in a way that they could continue the spin-off, right? I mean, if this movie does well, clearly they're going to make a sequel and continue. There's
yeah.
no reason they wouldn't. They've left the
Yeah.
story open that they could. What did you think of the movie? What was your level of excitement? What was your feeling of the movie before?
So I think I was a little bit less enthusiastic about it than you. I mean, I've seen all the Wick films and I've seen the Continental, and I do like Ana de Armas, but I felt like there wasn't going to be any surprises in this film. I kind of knew what it was going to be, and it was going to be, I thought it was going to be very loyal to, the Wick themes, which is an awful lot of very, very well scripted hand to hand combat, a lot of very long kind of like fight sequences. And in the end, everyone dies and, she's the last person standing. So from a suspense perspective, I felt like I was just going to go and be along for the ride for 2 hours without any big reveals or anything new. But I did expect that the film would be very, very well produced, and I wasn't let down by that at all. It is spectacular in terms of casting, in terms of acting, in terms of visuals, in terms of setting, in terms of production value. And I dare say there is not a better franchise of films that has better hand-to-hand combat
Oh, definitely
or
not.
weapons,
Yeah.
right? I mean, and you have to give, I mean, first of all, we gave, Keanu Reeves huge credit, for what he did. I mean, he took what his role in The Matrix and obviously took it to a different level with, his role as John Wick in that universe. And Ana de Armas, I thought was absolutely a worthy successor, to him. I thought that her skills, she must have practiced just incessantly for months, if not years, to achieve that level of credibility in terms of her fighting. So bravo to the entire movie and how well it was done. That being said, I'm kind of meh about the whole thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
For the reasons that I said, which is as good as the fighting sequences are, and to be honest, the story was reasonably compelling. I guess I've just got a little bit of John Wick fatigue in terms of this super fighter just being able to plow through dozens, if not hundreds, of fighters, and just leave nothing but carnage in their wake. And that was I think that's one of the reasons that the original John Wicks, while I enjoyed them, I wouldn't say that I'm like super passionate about them, just because despite the fact that there's a mysticism about John Wick, Baba Yaga, and how good of a fighter he is. I mean, and you and I have seen a lot of films that are not based on reality, including everything in the Marvel Cinematic Universe,
Right.
etc.
Yeah.
I mean, it really bothers me that as good as he is with hand-to-hand combat, the idea that he can just not be killed, you know, is a little bit off-putting to me. Like I'd appreciate if he had more fights individually, but not being able to tear through 50 people who allegedly are not just like schmucks from the street. They're allegedly at least somewhat skilled. I don't want to say assassins, but like criminals or
Capable
underworld
fighters,
figures.
right? At the very
Yeah,
least.
I mean, they're people that have like it would be different if John Wick came in and like mowed down my family. No one's ever touched a gun.
Yeah.
No one has any knife skills. We
Yeah.
don't know martial arts moves. When you go through a group of 10 people in like an auto shop or wherever it is that all are armed, have guns, have shot and killed people before, I guess I've just been less and less able to kind of suspend my disbelief. And that's frankly reached kind of a crescendo with Ballerina, where she takes on an entire town of assassins in their own right, So it just seemed a little bit like, oh, yawn, come on. Like,
So 2 points. One, I was worried about the fact that they cast Ana de Armas, who, look, she's very pretty, she's very capable, but it's not very believable to have her be able to take on 5, 10, 20, 50, 100 male assassins and fighters,
yeah,
because at some point she'll just get overpowered. And to their credit, they did address that in the very first fight training montage.
yeah, you've got to
Right? They
cheat.
said that you
Yeah,
have to cheat because you
yeah,
will never be able to beat a man because you are smaller, you are weaker, etc. I don't know. Look, and this is not a sexism issue. Again, there's no shortage of a number of women who could probably hand my ass to me.
yeah,
That's not the point I'm making. I'm not the one pretending to be a fighter. The fact of the matter remains, though, they did address it. So, one, kudos to them.
yeah, it's true.
Two, and this does also apply to Keanu Reeves, he does mow through all of these people, as does Ana de Armas. But they really make a show of the both of them getting beaten up quite badly, right? Like
Yeah,
she's
it's gritty.
pulling out knives from her shoulder.
Yeah,
He's getting shot. He has to stitch himself up. He's hurt quite badly. He's bruised. She's bruised. So it's not like she's coming out of these fight sequences or he's coming out of these fight sequences unharmed in any way. Again, I get your point, and your point
yeah,
is valid. My point is that, look, if we're going to suspend disbelief, we don't have to suspend it as much as we want to, right?
yep,
He's not Superman who's literally walking through a parade of bullets hailing down on him, in
yeah,
the sense that you see him physically get hurt. You see him fall off a building and limp. You see him fall down a staircase and like he doesn't break his ankle, he doesn't break his back, but you can tell that he's tired. You can tell that he's hurt. You can
yeah.
tell that he's human after all.
Yeah, I think the grittiness, I agree with you. There is a believable level of grittiness. And again, we sign up for this when we go to the cinema. There's no
Exactly.
shortage of films that are entirely unrealistic. So I can't, call this one out. I'm just kind of highlighting that it's one of the reasons that I cannot say that this is like my all-time favorite franchise that I just can't get enough of. That's one of the things that bothers me a little bit. But I have to say, apart from that, the combat sequences are really, really second to none, including the creativity of them.
Oh,
You know,
100%. The setting I liked the most was the one with the flamethrower. In terms of, and this is, this comes down to the vision of, I guess, their master of arms or whoever
yeah,
their stunt choreographer is,
yeah,
right? Like they coined the term gun fu
mhm,
for the John Wick franchise,
yeah,
and you get to really see it with the flamethrower fight sequences where ultimately she ends up resorting to not just using the flamethrower, but then defeating another guy with the flamethrower when she's got the fire hose. Yeah.
yeah,
Visually, this was exactly what I thought it was going to be. And again, somehow they keep elevating each of these movies. Every movie has gotten better and better in terms of the visuals. And
yeah.
I think that this was no different in that.
How do you think this is going to perform?
Not well.
Really?
And it's got nothing to do with that. I just think that an R-rated, like in India, it's rated A, adults only,
Yeah,
right? An R-rated action movie, summertime is great for that. I just think that you're limiting yourself to that, especially in a summer where you've got lots of great kids movies.
yeah,
You've got a couple of superhero movies coming out, which are generally speaking much more openly accessible.
yeah,
This is a spin-off which takes place between John Wick 3 and 4, which means that to really appreciate Keanu Reeves' cameo in it,
yeah,
you need to have seen 3 and 4.
yeah.
There's a lot of things working against it. However, as a spin-off, it's a very good standalone.
Yep. I agree. I think you don't necessarily have to have seen John Wick to understand this movie, but definitely if you do, it helps to kind of put it in perspective. But I kind of agree that it's in terms of what they've done to make this cinematic work, it's as good as any billion-dollar film, if not better. Unfortunately, I think it's not going to get anywhere near that just because the content is violent. And I think that, again, there's no kids who are going to go see this movie. And I think you're really limited on like kind of date night in terms of your female date wanting to kind of see a movie that's going to absolutely be known for a lot of fighting, shooting, stabbing, and kind of stuff, unless you really like Ana de Armas and you want to see her, kick some ass. I think it's a tough sell. And therefore, it's, I think, not going to do super great in the cinemas, but I think it will always have a good, like, streaming track record. I think it will make money, and I think they will absolutely do another one just because the franchise has so much brand recognition now, right?
Yeah.
So let's see how it does. That's my assessment of Ballerina. I would say, should we get into ratings?
Yeah, what did you think of this film?
Production wise, I cannot come up with anything better that they could have done. Casting, acting, locations, visuals, stunt coordination, everything is, to be honest, 5 stars, 10 out of 10. It's superb. But just in terms of my own interest of this and how I would recommend it to someone, I would say you can wait for streaming. Like I would tell
Okay.
my brother if he's like, "Hey, should I go see this?" I'd say, "Yeah, go ahead. Like if you've got time, but don't feel as though you've got to like change your schedule to like avoid finding out any spoilers, like online or anything. Like if you can't make it to the cinema, go ahead and wait for streaming. It will be fine. You know,
Right,
definitely it's better on a big screen as almost everything is, but I think this is a wait for streaming.
right.
How about you?
I'm in the same mindset of you in the sense that I think that production wise, I think in terms of action wise, there are going to be few movies that are going to be able to beat this up. I really
Yeah.
think that. I think in terms of the visual appeal, I think in terms of action sequences, I think in terms of a summer blockbuster, forget about the performance in the box office. Because again, I really think the summer performance is not going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
I think this is a watch in cinema.
Oh,
I think this is a watch in cinema for precisely the same reasons you think that it is, which is the visual designs, you're never going to be able to emulate it at home. The sound effects, the soundtrack, the explosives, all of that, FX, you're just not going to be able to get it at home. It
yeah.
was a joy to watch some of the fight sequences. And again, you go to John Wick movies to see the spectacle, not so much for the plot,
Yeah.
right? To a limited extent, that's how superhero movies work as well.
Although I have to say, I thought this storyline was reasonably coherent and compelling.
So I think the storyline was the weakest part here. I think there was a certain element of it that could have been better. This cult, right? I mean, the
Yeah.
overall premise is that there's the world that we know, the underworld that we know, right? Which is like the
Yeah.
Continental, the
Yeah.
Ruscaromas. We know all
Yeah.
of them from the previous John Wick movies. They introduce a third, or well, maybe whatever number faction, which is
Yeah.
the cult,
Yeah.
which is like they have this uneasy alliance, which is we're going to do whatever the hell we want and we'll stay out of your hair as long as you stay out of our hair. But the moment you get involved with us, all hell breaks loose because we don't believe in your rules and we will do whatever the heck we want.
I do like that they introduced the new faction, but I thought that there were some a little bit kind of inconsistencies. Like one, I didn't like the idea that they could actually stay at the Continentals.
Yeah.
Like I thought that was a little bit unusual. If you want to stay out of someone's business, you probably shouldn't be staying at their hotels where you know you're going to be surveilled. And likewise, if you really don't want anyone to be involved with you, you probably don't have them in your hotels. So I thought that was a little bit fuzzy in terms of how it was justified. And then I guess the other issue is I'm not sure if I really understand why this faction initially kind of went after Ana de Armas. Like it started where she kind of like what left that nightclub, right? She gets into the BMW that's obviously smashed this guy against the wall. She starts driving, and then this car, which I noticed speeding very, very fast, smashes into her. Just maybe there's more than one guy because she probably killed some guys through the windshield. But then this guy comes after her, right? Was that explained where this initiated?
In the very beginning of the movie, we're introduced as her as a kid, and she's clearly a child of this cult. Her
Yeah,
father was married into the cult, didn't want her to be
yeah,
a part of the cult, tries to take her away, and they want her back. So the problem is that we don't know what the cult really stands for. Whereas
yeah,
with all of the other factions, we kind of know where they stand. And like they've built out their, mythology, whereas we don't have that mythology built out for this cult. Yes, that's a great question you ask. What do they want with her as a kid, and why do they insist on getting all these kids in there? That's the
yeah,
first problem. The second problem is that, so we're introduced to the main, not the main bad guy. The main bad guy is Gabriel Byrne, but I guess his granddaughter,
Yeah.
spoiler alert, is Ana de Armas' sister.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden now Gabriel Burns wants to kill both of them. Like that moved really fast. And then they were kind of like very quick to trust each other, even though they shouldn't have been. Like that moved really fast for me.
Yeah.
And I think that it would have almost been better off had she survived and they fought together as a pair
Yeah.
against this cult.
I agree. First, I don't really like the characterization as a cult because, to be honest, they kind of seemed like the better guys in the way. Like, what I understood was they're kind of like, hey, we're a family of assassins, just like the John Wick kind of continental team. The difference is we allow people to kind of have like a personal life,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it seemed to be actually a friendlier place. The idea that they kind of called it a cult, I thought was intended to kind of make it look bad. But I agree. I thought that it would have been really cool, especially when you just talked about world building at the beginning of this episode. If it would have been a more, hey, you actually belong to us. We're the good guys. Yes, we're assassins, but we also believe in family values and we blah, blah, blah. It was a different thing.
I would have gone the other way. I would have said, hey, you know what we should do is we should build out the world of this cult and
Yes.
have her start out as a member of the cult. And she starts doing whatever kind of assassinations, whatever, against members of the world that we know, the Continental
Yeah.
and the Rusko Romas,
Yeah.
only for her to realize that she's a part of the bad guys, rebel, pull her sister out, and then destroy the cult from underneath. That I think would have been interesting. Fine. Look, I get it. It's a lot to do in one movie, whereas the John Wick franchise has had 3 or 4 movies to do. They've got their own TV spinoff.
Yeah.
But I think that they kind of moved a little too fast with these bad guys for us to
Yeah.
really understand. In the first few movies, we really knew who the bad guys were because it was a simple concept.
Yeah.
This guy killed my puppy.
Yeah.
I'm going to go after him.
That's right.
This guy stabbed me in the back, even though I did what he wanted me to do. I'm going to
Yeah.
go after him. I went after the bad guy. I broke the rules in doing so. So now the entire system is coming after me. That was 3 and 4. I get those. It's a very simple concept as to who the antagonists are. I don't want to say the bad guys.
Yeah.
Let's say the antagonists.
Yeah.
In this one, we're told that the cult are the bad guys, but we don't really know why.
And I don't really see it.
And maybe they are. Maybe they aren't.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the Continental guys who are the bad guys in the real world. We don't know. But the point is that we don't know why that
Yeah.
that the cult is supposed to be these bad.
I agree, especially if you have to assume that this is going to perform well enough to justify a sequel. I think that they kind of like sliced off some of the stuff too soon, right? Like her sister, Lena was, I thought, a compelling enough character that it kind of would have been a good cliffhanger ending if Lena's alive or like they have like their big fight sequence and they kind of fight to a draw and you're like, well, this is going to be an ongoing thing.
What would have been great is instead of the contract being put out against Eve at the end of the movie, they put a contract out against Lena, and then you realize, oh shit, she's still alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you're just like, okay, now we know
Yeah.
what the direction of the second movie is going to be. She's going to go all out to find Lena, not to kill her, but to protect her from all these other contracts. And then we can kind of learn about what's going on with the cult and why the cult is bad, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Look, here's the frank reality. Do I think this movie is going to make $1 billion? Absolutely. However, in the movie's advantage, it only cost them $90 million to make.
Is that right?
I think it's hilarious to say only, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a lot of money still. Yeah. But it certainly looks worth more than $90. $90 million. And the second thing is that typically speaking, the John Wick movies have performed very well on a grand scheme. So
Yeah.
If this movie makes 250 or $300 million, A, it's going to be in the profit, and B, like it would justify making a second movie as long as the budget stays around the same.
Do you have to wonder though, this is $90 million. We think of that as a small budget. What is a movie costing 300 million? Like what?
That's my point. Because honestly, this movie had a lot of traveling, right? So there were lots of
Yeah,
different geographies involved,
that's
which a
right.
lot of movies blame. Oh, well, we shot in 12 different locations. There
Yeah.
was no shortage of locations in this movie either. The hotel looked swish like anything. The set
Oh yeah.
designs
Yep.
looked fantastic. You can't tell me that hotel didn't look like it was worth 100 million bucks on its own.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it looked good and the fight sequences were phenomenal.
Yeah. They were
It didn't look
phenomenal.
like a quote unquote cheap movie.
Mm.
Again, this is the state of the movie industry when you can call $90 million a cheap movie.
I mean, I think that some of these budgets are obviously a little bit bloated. And I mean, we also have to take these with a grain of salt because we don't really know what is attributable to everything. But I have to say, if I were an exec and I had Mission Impossible, so how much did Mission Impossible cost? Upwards of 300 million, right?
$400 million. And that's just for the filming.
Yeah.
That's not including the advertising.
So don't you have to ask if you're a movie exec? Okay, so I've got two things on my plate. Mission Impossible for 400 million, John Wick Ballerina for, let's just round it to 100 million, right? You say, okay, I'll give you a few things. You know, maybe there's Tom Cruise is very expensive. Okay, I'll add another 50 million, right? And all right, I guess maybe there's more CGI. I'll add another, 100 million, right? I mean, fine. So you're at 250. Where's the extra 150 million? I mean, it wasn't like Mission Impossible was filmed in like downtown Chicago where they had to pay the city to like,
Shut the entire place down for a week.
yeah, keep Wacker Drive open for a week and keep all the bridges in the Chicago River wide open, right? It wasn't filmed in like Times Square where they had to get like all this police and backup security and stuff. I don't know where that goes. Maybe we need a breakdown of that one day. That would be a fun episode. But I agree with you that I think some of these budgets are bloated, and maybe that's just, to be honest, maybe it's a tax issue by studios that are, I mean, this is the finance side of us coming out. Maybe they're
Yeah.
trying to make these things more expensive, and they're just putting everything in the kitchen sink in there, including, just loading up the budget. But in terms of just what it should cost cash out of pocket, I think that Wick is a very, very well budgeted movie.
To any of our listeners, if you're a producer, if you're a financier,
Yeah.
we'd love to have you on. I'd really love to understand that, hey, listen, let's break down where we think this $90 million budget goes
Yeah.
and where a $400 million budget goes. And let's talk about whether you can justify that. Because even if it is a tax issue, at the end of the day, someone is paying $400 million.
So we gave our ratings. I said this is wait for streaming. You said this is must see in cinemas. Before we go, can we talk about another 2025 action-ish film that just came out that we both saw, but we saw it streaming wise?
Yeah, that's right. We saw The Amateur,
The Amateur with,
Rami Malek
yep,
and Lawrence Fishburne.
John Berthnall, who we saw in The Accountant 2.
Very small.
Yeah, small role. We both saw this. I remember this kind of coming out and it wasn't really on my radar. And then what did you think about it?
I thought it was fine. I thought this was really so we talked about this offline. A couple years ago, or maybe even more than a couple years ago, there was a movie starring Dylan O'Brien and Michael Peter.
It is Dylan O'Brien. Why do I think he was a Jonas brother? He looks like a Jonas brother.
It's got a very similar vibe. I mean, the
Yep,
effective plot is identical, right?
that's right.
The main character's wife slash girlfriend is away on a work trip and gets killed by a terrorist.
Yeah.
And this guy who is not a CIA agent, or like a field agent by training, decides that he's going to go and do something about it.
I have to say, going back to American Assassin, which is a 2017 movie,
Sure.
I like this movie.
Yeah.
Like I like the premise initially, which is Dylan O'Brien, who plays a dude named Mitch Rapp. I mean, that sounds like a TV character. Is like with his girlfriend, he's just kind of like, I don't want to say like a loser, but he's just a regular old college kid.
Regular guy, yeah.
With his girlfriend kind of on spring break. There's, some type of horrible attack at the hotel. His girlfriend is killed, and he's like, look, that was my life. Like, I'm out for revenge. Like, he's like, I'm just gonna make myself into, like an assassin. I'm just gonna do this on my own. I'm gonna lift weights. I'm gonna do cardio. I'm gonna like learn how to punch and kick. I'm gonna learn to shoot a gun. I'm gonna learn to stab. I'm gonna go out and get them. I mean, we just talked about how disbelievable I found John Wick is. That this is totally not believable, but I like the premise. So I'm just saying I liked American Assassin, but I acknowledge it was a little bit unrealistic. That's, I think, why I like The Amateur, because I felt Rami Malek he's MacGyver. Like, he acknowledges he's not good with a gun. He's not a puncher. He's not a fighter. I thought it was a very, very realistic type of movie that he's like, look, I'm out for revenge, but I know that I can't just like be John Wick and just go into a place and like shoot everybody. I'm going to have to do it MacGyver style, kind of use, what I'm good at, to pull this off. I liked it.
I thought it was fine. I think that this was a movie that is as safe as you can make. It's inoffensive. It's quiet. It's got some good action sequences. It's got a very simple plot.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of those movies that an executive will greenlight very easily because, you've got an Oscar winner, you've got some very well-known names in there, and it's not an expensive movie to make.
Yeah. I would not be opposed to a sequel of this.
Right.
I kind of liked his. I mean, I thought at times it was a little bit too, like he just wrote a code and the code does everything, like I get it. He's like intelligent, but I kind of like the MacGyver-ish aspects of it more, where he's just kind of a clever, crafty guy who uses what's around him and his own wits to kind of like pull this thing off. So I would not be opposed to a sequel. I mean, I don't know if I had a strong feeling about Rami Malek before this. I mean, he's known obviously for Mr. Robot, which is kind of old now, and I think Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah.
But I have to say, like, I liked him in this. So that's our daily double, or at least this episode double, where we took down Ballerina, and also a very quick and short review of The Amateur, which I think is absolutely a wait for streaming.
100%.
That's not a cinema film, but it's good for what it is. That's one of the shows or the movies my brother says, like, it was 2 hours well spent.
Exactly.
Pete, before we sign off, do you want to leave our social media creds so that everybody can write in what they thought of Ballerina, John Wick universe, etc.? Maybe even American Assassin 2017, not too late for comments. And most recently, The Amateur.
All right, boys and girls, you heard the man. DM us on Instagram at Films and Stuff Podcast. The easiest thing you can do, however, leave a comment below, subscribe to our channel, hit that notification bell, and don't forget to like this video.
Pete, it's been a pleasure this weekend morning. We will see all of our listeners next week on the Films and Stuff Podcast. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Ethan. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.